Hello and welcome to Creating Hope in Our Community, Healthy and Happy and Camglen Radio's campaign for promoting good wellbeing and ultimately suicide prevention. Today I'm speaking with the team at Lanarkshire Links. We have with us here Liz McWhinney, Lorraine Swan and Becca Hibbard. They're going to be telling us what Lanarkshire Links do and how they support good mental wellbeing across Lanarkshire. So, first things first, how are you all today?
Very well.
Very well, thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, all good. I think we've probably been a wee bit nervous coming in and doing something a bit different today. But I think the important part is getting the message across about what it is that Lanarkshire Links does.
Okay, so can you, we'll have listeners who maybe haven't heard of Lanarkshire Links before. I guess they might have heard about something when I spoke to Stigma Free Lanarkshire a few months ago now, your colleagues just next door. But what does Lanarkshire Links do?
Lanarkshire Links fulfils a statutory function for the NHS and the health and social care partnerships. It's part of the sort of wider Scottish Government overall national standards for community engagement. It's recognised that if service users and their carers are informed and have their say in the development and delivery of services, then these services are more likely to meet their needs. The charity came into being in 2002 as a group of service users and carers who were really passionate about improving mental health services. In many cases, it was because they were not satisfied with the care that they had received, and they really wanted to make things better for other people going forward. So I think for us, people and their lived experience is at the heart of the work that we do. We bring people and other organisations together to identify and prioritise what should happen with services to support mental health and wellbeing and recovery for people. We do this here at Lanarkshire Links in a number of ways. We engage our members through big quarterly meetings where we ask along service providers to come and speak with the members and engage them in conversations round the tables. And we record all their opinions and we feed these back to the actual statutory service providers. We also ask them to come and engage with us in focus groups if there's a specific change happening. And again, we invite so many members in and we record their opinions and feed them back in the hope that we can influence these changes as they're happening. The staff team and our trustees respond to requests from the statutory partners to be part of meetings, committees, and events that we can feed into and talk about Lanarkshire Links as well as our members' opinions. We're also about promoting mental health recovery and informal peer support within the membership. We can recognise everybody's got mental health. Anyone can have a mental health problem, but with the right support, people can and do recover. I quite like the Scottish Recovery Network definition of mental health recovery, and it says recovery means being able to live a good life as defined by the person with or without symptoms. So at Lanarkshire Links, we believe that together we can make recovery real across the communities, with the caveat that that's different for every individual. None of us are all the same. So we facilitate mental health and wellbeing groups across the localities, which support all this work that we do. In addition, we also employ the Stigma Free programme team here in the charity.
So part of an additional section to what we do, as well as all of the stuff that Liz has told us about, is the Stigma Free Lanarkshire team. Mindful that you have had them on your podcast a couple of weeks ago, so I won't go into too much detail, but the key thing with stigma, which was identified within Lanarkshire Links, is that stigma is such a massive part in people being able to recover on their mental health journey. So that's why we've got that whole umbrella section within the charity. Stigma Free Lanarkshire focuses on 4 key areas. So they work across the communities and try and address the stigma associated with mental health in communities, education on young people, health and social care, and workplaces. So they do, but again, that's their 4 key work streams, but they do fantastic work within each of those areas. We also, another section of the Lanarkshire Links work programme, if you like, is the peer support workers. So these are people with lived experience, mental health experience, who work within the 2 hospitals in Lanarkshire. So we have 2 peer support workers working in Wishaw, the acute mental health ward, and then also in Hermyers. But I'll hopefully be able to talk to you a bit more about that in a bit more detail in a minute.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's talk about your peer support workers. So, you mentioned you got in the 2 hospitals, Wishaw and Hermyers. Yeah. So, what do they do? And I guess, how do they support the clinical team? In other words, the doctors and the nurses.
Yeah. So I've just been. We've just been doing an evaluation of the service so that we know that it's meeting the patient's needs, to be honest with you, and making sure that the service is fit and that it's having the impact that we need it to have. So part of that evaluation has been asking the staff who work in the wards about what their experiences are of the peer support workers. And the feedback that I'm getting back, and I've managed to look at 2 of the wards so far, one in Wishaw and one in Hermyers, is that the impact for the clinical team and the staff within the hospitals is one of the things that somebody says was it's an invaluable service. But later on they talk about how the impact that it has on their workload is phenomenal. Having a peer support worker that's actually there on the ward, the day-to-day, doing all of the non-clinical stuff, because you can have the clinical work that takes place and for people on the wards, but then also that non-clinical approach makes such a difference and actually can have such a big impact. So again, that really helps the workload and that's feedback from the staff on the wards, not from myself. Another thing that the ward staff have commented on is the fact of having a peer support worker on the wards brings a completely different perspective. So the peer support workers are able to share with the clinical staff about their own experience as well of having experienced mental health difficulties, but also share what it might be like for that person on the ward and say, actually, I remember when I was going into a multidisciplinary team meeting, and actually the room was quite frightening, and you could change that by adding pictures to the walls or to make it a bit less formal, to encourage the patient to be able to attend their multidisciplinary meetings. So it just puts a completely different twist on people's thought processes, because when we get to work, we can be quite, we've got to do this, and this, and we don't always think about the person on the other side, the really important part. So for me, the feedback from the staff on the ward is that it reduces their workload. It gives a completely different slant view, perspective on the patient's experience of being on the ward, because for a lot of the patients, it might be their first time in an acute mental health ward, and having somebody who's lived through it, who's experienced it, who's done it, has an impact on the actual clinical staff's practice, which is really important, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose having someone there who's lived experience must be so beneficial to the patients who are, probably quite worried about what's going on and maybe feel like they might not be understood as well. I'm also amazed at the fact that we all kind of know and hear about it being spoken about so often that about the NHS being, under so much pressure, and this must be just a nice or a good thing to kind of relieve some of that pressure for those.
The peer
doctors.
workers bring a sense of normality to the ward and a recovery focus to care. And I think they can instill hope for patients that they've been in the same position and now they're working. So it's their recovery journey has taken them to the point that they've managed to go back into employment. Not that employment's there for everyone, but it's that hope that I'll get better. The peer workers also have a broad knowledge of what's out there in the community to support people when they're discharged. So they're part of the actual discharge planning process in the ward. So whatever they do with the patient in the ward, there's another third sector organisation out there that will pick that up when they go home if they choose to access it. Now, they might come to us, but they might go to something else that's actually local to them. Perhaps they've found it helpful in the ward to do arts and crafts, and they'll look for a wee organisation out there that runs an arts and crafts group. And just having somewhere to go to a group once a week can be beneficial for the patient in their recovery journey. So it's all low-touch things. Peer workers, our members will tell us that they get it. And that's it in a nutshell. They get it.
Yeah, and I think for the patients as well, and again, I have to actually physically try and put myself in a patient's position where they've potentially been detained, they're being taken onto an acute mental health ward, whether it's your first time or whether it's your sixth time, I would imagine it's quite scary. So having the peer workers who are not in a uniform, they're not wearing a medical uniform, they're just in normal clothes, coming up and talking to the patients, explaining to them what it is that they're going through, what's the next steps, what things they need to do, and part of that recovery journey. And again, when we look at the evaluation that we've done, the impact on the patients and what they've fed back to us has very much been about that. And what I'm reading is that they're having these recovery conversations. There's one patient who talks about the fact that they've got a plan on discharge now. They know what support they're going to access outside. They know that they need to have a routine in place. They know, and all of these techniques have been given to them by the peer worker, which again is absolutely vital for them on that recovery path. The peer worker, and another patient talked about, and I've written it down, so I would like to use their words and not tell you my words what they've used, but they said when the question was asked, is there anything that you would change about the peer worker service? And they said, there is nothing I could wish for. She has given me my voice again, which again, I just think that's such a small sentence and the power behind that. So even when you're evaluating the service, how can you quantify that when somebody who's been potentially been voiceless for such a long period of time, who felt that they can't share what they're thinking, their thoughts, their views, how they feel, the fact that the peer worker has come in and supported them through some of the toughest weeks in their life, but at the end of it, they feel like they have their voice again, and I think that's just absolutely incredible. And the value of those 4 people working across those wards, I just don't think that we can measure it effectively or even quantify the impact that they're having on individuals in Lanarkshire. I think it's quite incredible.
Absolutely. I think I guess I'm just repeating what you said there, Lorraine, but the thought of being in that level of need, that level of care, and to have someone that maybe talks their language a bit more. And I suppose, we kind of touched on this before we started recording, and we talked about how I guess this was more from the point of view of maybe when you work in a particular sector. So we were talking about, working in the charity or the third sector, and maybe using certain language that only really means something if you're talking to other people in that sector. I was talking about an old workplace that used to use all these kind of, abbreviations all the time, and it doesn't mean anything anymore. But to have someone there that just, for want of a better phrase, talks like a normal person, it doesn't talk like a person working in a clinical setting, talks like an actual human being. I think that must do a lot for patients who are in that position.
And I think if you look across all the variety of different sectors where you do have peer workers supporting individuals on the recovery, the power in that is absolutely incredible. So the fact that Lanarkshire has 4 working in the mental health wards, working actually in the hospital, is a massive testimony to Lanarkshire Links, but as well to NHS Health and Social Care. I really think that it's the impact on the patients is significant, and we're quite lucky to have that within our local authority, within our local area, because not everywhere does have that.
When you and I had a conversation maybe last month about this, and I guess just kind of in the run up to the podcast. Am I right in saying I don't think there's? Did you say there was no other health boards that have?
I might have got that wrong, right, but okay. Liz could maybe
right. Okay,
clarify.
At least not very many.
The other health boards that do have this available, it's not independently run from a third sector organisation. Okay. It's an in-house service. Mm-hmm. So there's not that autonomy there, in my opinion. But in saying that, NHS Lanarkshire ran with this. This is a pioneering service. Mm-hmm. It's been there since 2009. So we are delighted to have the workers here, and we feel, because peer support's so integral to our work, it's integral to us as a staff team, and we're able to provide that support to one another because we have a board of trustees who understand and support us in our workplace. So, yeah, I don't think there's another service the exact same as ours in the country.
Excellent. Okay, well, it's amazing that support's there for people. That quote that you gave, Lorraine. You can't really say much more than that, can you? Okay, so I guess the next question I put in the script was, what are the benefits of having peer support workers in local hospitals? We've already covered that, really. So we'll move on to the next question then. So can you explain what the engagement and participation model is within Lanarkshire Links, and why it's important for shaping mental health services across Lanarkshire?
So I'm going to take this one. I can only apologise because this is going to be quite stuttery.
You take your time.
Okay. So the engagement and participation strategy was set up as part of the University Health and Social Care North Lanarkshire. It aims to ensure that local people with support needs feel heard, engaged and involved in the development of health and social care services in North Lanarkshire. So we host quarterly engagement and participation network meetings, and we encourage everybody to come along, so counsellors, people for statutory services, people for other organisations and charities, as well as people that have been awarded funding for the Growth Pot Fund, but I'll touch on that in a minute. So our engagement and participation networks are a great way for us to kind of ask the right questions, so put it back onto the people within the community, people within these organisations. What does good engagement and participation network look like to you? So we gather a lot of feedback for there. We do small focus groups, we get people to facilitate them, and the meetings are quarterly, so we always update anybody that was there on what changes have been made. So it's really good. You meet a good mix of people. The next meeting is on the 9th of September, and it's an in-person meeting. We don't have a venue as of yet, but once we do, it will be on all of our social medias. So we invite anybody to come along and kind of see it out for yourself. The main focus is just to bring community voices together, focus on partnership working, strengthen networks and fostering connections. our role in the Engagement and Participation Network is we are part of something called the Growth Pot Fund, which is a partnership that we are in with the North Lanarkshire Disability Forum. For those who don't know who they are, they're a user-led organisation providing up-to-date information on disability issues throughout North Lanarkshire, and the Voice of Experience Forum, who are a registered charity which operates through North Lanarkshire as the champion and representative voice of older people. They're amazing partners. We really enjoy working with them, and it's just been brilliant throughout. We've reached a lot of people within the community. We've been able to fund 29 small projects since last year. So the funding is there to... So the Growth Pot Fund is there for smaller groups within North Lanarkshire who have an annual income of £75,000 or less. We're able to fund projects between £500 and £5,000. So through the Growth Pot Fund, there's been links made between each grantee. So not only have we been able to fund these projects and kind of see them flourish, we've also seen relationships flourish and people link in with each other, which has benefited each of the communities, which is more than what we could ever have hoped for and asked for. So it's been really great to see those kind of relationships build, and it really just highlights how important the Engagement and Participation Network is, and partnership working.
I think we've seen an example of it where we had one of our most recent grantees where they put an event on within North Lanarkshire, but in attendance at that event was about 3 or 4 of the older grantees, now people who had received money from the Growth Pot, attending that event and supporting this new partner, you know. And that's incredible, the fact that these were all organisations working in silo, but now they're all rallying around each other and coming together to support each other. It's been absolutely brilliant.
It's been really good to see.
And it's let us get in touch with groups that weren't engaged before and, you know, bring these conversations together.
I suppose, you know, across the sector, you know, all these organisations ultimately want the same thing, and that's, you know, better well-being in the area. So it's heartening to see so many people, or so many organisations starting to come together and you know, pool resources and pool skills and things like that as well. So.
And that's all down to the Engagement and Participation Network and that Growth Pot Fund. I mean, and obviously the partners that are involved with that. So the fact that all of these small organisations, they can learn from each other, they can develop their own practices. And again, ultimately, the people that's benefiting is the people of Lanarkshire, and it means that engagement, we can really get to hear the voices of everybody, because these small groups that are working across Lanarkshire, North Lanarkshire in particular, we're not necessarily being able to reach those people and their lived experience within some of the smaller communities, or some of the communities that are out with Motherwell or in some of the smaller areas, and we can really get in and get to hear their voice and get them to engage within and get their voices heard right across Lanarkshire, which is just incredible.
I would imagine that North Lanarkshire, like South Lanarkshire, which is where I'm from, you know, there's probably quite a lot of groups that are very small, sort of grassroots organisations. Maybe it's, you know, a group of people who have said there's not enough support for this, so I'm going to start it. And they maybe don't have necessarily that awareness of the wider sort of third sector or who's out there and who can support them. But it sounds like you're kind of, or as part of this growth pot, you know, able to reach out and support and sort of give them the sort of resources that every organisation could benefit from.
So we kind of sit in North Lanarkshire's engagement and participation strategy. So the 3 organisations that are the network, we kind of overlap with North Lanarkshire Carers Together, who are charged with engagement for unpaid carers, and with Voluntary Action North Lanarkshire, who carry out engagement with communities. So it's a full strategy for North Lanarkshire that we're part of.
Brilliant. Okay. And I guess just coming back to the original sort of key point is the engagement and participation model. So it sounds like it's extremely, user focused or client focused, and it's about what they need as well. Excellent. Okay. So young people and digital solutions are mentioned in this model. How is Lanarkshire Links adapting adapting engagement approaches to be more inclusive and future facing, would you say?
I think we'll turn to the young one for this answer.
Oh my goodness, okay, I'm actually 29, that's actually quite old.
No, it really
we're not
isn't.
ageist. So working with younger people has kind of become a main focus of ours. We understand the value of giving younger people a voice to share their experiences, let us know what gaps there is in the supports that they can access. Being a young person in this day and age, the struggles don't go unnoticed. It's social media, schooling, there's so much to it, and we're so aware of that. So we'd love to hear more from younger people, shared experiences, what we could do best to support them, let them educate us. So we'd love to give them the chance to get involved in changing the services they access for support. So if any young person is listening to this right now and would like to share their experience or get involved with Lanarkshire Links, we would absolutely love to hear from you. So I've recently taken on an additional role as a youth development officer for South Lanarkshire, and we've managed to secure funding for development officer for North Lanarkshire, as well as get funding to hire a social media person. So these are all ways that we're hoping to be able to reach a wider audience, not necessarily just young people, but young people as a focus. And we're in the process of updating our website to make it more clear, concise and accessible to everyone, because we know that that's something that is important. Again, social media and everything, we know not everybody is on that train, so we still will use other means to kind of engage with people, but that right now is a focus.
I think the fact that we've been able to be successful in getting the funding for specifically somebody like Becca and somebody who we hope to get for North Lanarkshire soon, a young person development officer, is just the opportunities that opens up to be able to access those younger groups is just incredible.
Really exciting time for us. We'll have a big push on development with younger adults as soon as the other two workers are in post.
But in the meantime, we do have Becca in the South Lanarkshire, and again, she's making connections with a number of different organisations who are already accessing young people, and just to be able to tag along onto to them and access the young people there and get their views on the services that they're experiencing in South Lanarkshire. Really powerful.
Yeah, or maybe we could get a conversation after this, as Camden Radio's got a youth start programme that we've been working on for a wee while now, doing things like podcasting workshops as well, so maybe if there's a way we can partner that up, I think it would be really good.
That would be amazing, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'll chat to you after we've stopped recording. So I guess to throw you a question that's not on the script, but what are young people telling you, when you kind of go to them with these, I guess, go to them asking for their opinion, what are they saying?
I can maybe jump in on this bit because we've done some fantastic work with Go2, who support young people with mental health in South Lanarkshire. I'm sure you'll be aware of them.
It sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
So is it GOTO?
Yeah, they're part of Regen FX.
I know of it, yes. Regen FX, yes. I knew it sounded familiar.
I feel as though they've been doing their own podcasts as a group of young people.
It's my colleague Dom that's been supporting it. And you had heard of GoTo, I just couldn't place it.
We'd done some work with GoTo and we'd done some focus groups, in various different formats to get their views and their experiences of GP services, in fact. And they were so fantastic, so honest, so raw in how they were sharing in their experiences of being, or their feelings of being, their mental health being not necessarily taken seriously, because they're young and because they should have their whole life ahead of them, and they should have really happy experiences, what you would expect young people to be going through. And actually the reality for them is something very different. But when they're coming into contact with professionals, they feel or felt during that they were being almost brushed aside, it being put down to hormones, it being put down to what could actually be going so wrong for you. And they felt as though they weren't being listened to. And we were able to capture that in a report based on the focus groups and the information that they were sharing for us. And it was really powerful to hear their views. And again, they shared it in such a strong way. And I wanted... They weren't professional because they were young people and they were at that stage, but actually they shared it in a really professional way, a way that we were able to take and capture and share, which was just incredible.
It's come up a few times, and while I've been recording this podcast, and I guess I want to know your thoughts on it as well. But do you think young people are maybe more equipped to have these conversations? Maybe they're the first sort of generation not the first generation, but, perhaps unlike generations before them who maybe didn't start talking about mental health until they were an adult, or maybe it wasn't acceptable until to talk about it as an adult. These kids are growing up and, they're doing things in secondary schools now, like mental health first aiders having them around. And do you think kids are more aware of these things?
Yeah, I do. And I think we often underestimate them. We underestimate the fact that they are able to share much more than possibly I would have been able to when I was 15, 16, 17. And I do think it is because they do have that knowledge, the education, and as much as social media, I think, has such a negative impact on young people's mental health and well-being, but actually the knowledge that they're able to access through that has empowered them with a valid voice, because they do have that knowledge that I wouldn't have had through social media. I'm so sorry.
You kind of answered it. My question was about young people and their, I guess, literacy around mental health, and that's it.
I think they're absolutely eloquent in being able to share their views, and that is because they have had the input that perhaps us from the older generation didn't necessarily get. And I think we underestimate their voice so much. I really do.
Well,
I think Becca's got an exciting job in her hands, being able to go out and get their views and get their voice, because I think what she's going to be able to generate from their views is going to be quite incredible and powerful.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you get back. It'll be really interesting to hear. Okay, so can you describe then the unique challenges carers of forensic patients face that people might not be aware of? And I guess if you could even fill us in as to what a forensic patient is would be good as well.
Yeah, so I suppose when we're talking about this, we really need to understand what forensic mental health services are. Forensic means it's related to or associated with legal issues. It's mental health services for forensic patients provide assessment and treatment for people who have a mental health illness, who have offended or are in danger of offending. So Lanarkshire Links, we responded to requests from the staff team across at the Low Secure Unit in Hamilton to work with them to facilitate engagement with their carers, recognising the stigma that they have already through their loved one having mental health illness, but the fact that they've become involved in the criminal justice system. So we continue engagement with the team across there. We have facilitated support groups, information sessions across at the unit, and we've produced like newsletters to put out to carers, and it's recognising these carers are not Lanarkshire Links members. They're specific carers of people who are in the service, whether it be in the unit or in the community forensic teams. So that staff group communicate directly with the carers. We come in as independent outsiders to facilitate the engagement, to allow the carers to speak freely. When they're in forums, they don't feel that they are obliged to say, oh yes, the service is wonderful. They've got an outside facilitator there in us to provide that support for them. So, very difficult for these carers. They can come into service at the beginning when their loved one comes into the care of the service, and they're very angry of what has gone on before for their loved one to actually end up in the unit. So they need a lot of support and information and reassurance that now their loved one's in the unit, they're going to be well cared for, discharge planning will be in place and will happen, and they'll know what supports are going to be out there for their loved one once they're into the community, and that the community team is there for them. So a lot of reassurance is done through the groups and engagement with these carers.
It must be, to support a carer like that, it must be incredibly complicated. Obviously, I guess everyone's, reason for being, or the person they're caring for, the reasons for being there would be wildly different across the board. But yeah, it must be so many difficult emotions associated with that for that person.
The actual staff team are very good in reassuring them that if they've had past bad experience, that they're going to actually turn this around, and going forward they'll get the support, and so will their loved one. So it is a hard job to do. There can be years of history there. And as I say, the carers can come in very angry at the beginning, but the groups work well, and we hope to continue that engagement.
It sounds like, similarly to what we were saying earlier, peer support is huge here as well, would you say?
It is, because they get a chance to sit down and they don't feel they're alone. There are other carers there who have had quite often horrendous experiences in other parts of the care system, and to realise that they're not alone is a big part of that.
I think it is. To be a carer of somebody who's experienced mental ill health or any mental illness is such a lonely place to be, as opposed to any other form, potentially one of those invisible disabilities. It's such an isolating, lonely place to be, where people can often be, I would imagine, pointing the finger at them, feeling as though that it's the carer's responsibility, it's the carer's fault while that person's where they are. And actually so you can understand the barriers that they put up themselves potentially to keep themselves safe. And it really is about creating that safe platform for them to be able to come and talk about their experiences as a carer, talk about what they've been through, but not only that, to have peers around them who understand that journey that they've been on and aren't judging them and aren't making those assumptions about their lived experience. And I just think it's such a crucial opportunity that we have working with the hospital in supporting these carers, because actually these carers have been doing an incredible job for so many years unsupported, with people potentially receiving negative experiences and stigma associated with it. And these people need to be supported and helped and encouraged, because actually what they're doing has been a phenomenal job that a lot of people would really struggle with.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're coming up to the last question then. So can I ask then, what inspired you to become involved with Lanarkshire Links, and what keeps you passionate about this work?
I think this was one of the ones that I was quite excited about responding to, one of the questions, actually, to be honest with you, because ultimately what we do know is our knowledge and understanding of mental health and mental illness is growing substantially over the past 20 years, potentially, not just in Lanarkshire, but across the whole nation. Yet within our systems, within our local authorities, within our governments, within our statutory services, people are still experiencing significant inequities between if they have a physical illness and compared to a mental illness. So while our knowledge is growing so much, our services aren't moving at the same pace as our knowledge and understanding is. And the inequity and experiences within the services that people are going through is just something that I feel quite passionate about. And I think that that's what Lanarkshire Links is hoping to address, is to pull the services up to the same level as our knowledge and understanding at the moment, and hopefully get the services to the point where they're on an equal par with people with physical illnesses. For me, Lanarkshire Links is about engaging people who use the services and their carers to have a voice, to be involved and inform services. And that's so important, because without the voice of the people who are actually living in it, going through it, we can't make the changes necessary to bring services up to speed that we need to. And that's why I think Lanarkshire Links is so important. Yeah, that's what it is for me.
That was a bit of a mic drop moment there, Lorraine, honestly. How do we follow up on that one then?
But I think, what you've said, health and health services as such, they're politically driven, and change is constant. So I'm committed to ensuring that the voice of mental health service users and their carers is not lost out there in all this change that is constantly going on. I had a chance meeting with a previous Lanarkshire Links manager, and before I knew it, I was volunteering. I was a trustee, and the rest is really quite history. I ended up coming and working for the charity, and I've not lost that appetite and commitment to doing this work. I believe in what the charity does, and I really think, we're crucial to making sure that the voice of mental health service users and carers is heard at all levels in service provision. And
I think we're quite lucky in that sense, because Liz does get a seat at these big tables where the people with lived experiences voices can be shared, and Liz is quite tenacious ensuring that their voices are heard, which I think is really important when you work for an organisation. Yeah. Tenacity is one of the should be in the job description. So we're lucky enough that Liz has the seat at those tables to share their views.
Excellent. And Beck, what about yourself?
Well, it's kind of a hard one to follow up there. Lorraine didn't eat and left no crumbs, but okay, so I mean, from a personal level, I feel like I am a lover of people. I care about the people. I mean, I've lived in Lanarkshire my whole life. I care about the people in Lanarkshire. I care about our members, empowering them, letting their voice be heard, and just doing as much as I possibly can to really spread the word. I know that mental health, it feels as though now there is more speak of it, but I still think like the work that's stigma free is so important, because there is still stigma, and I feel like I just want to get involved in the communities and really see change happening. You know, sometimes it feels as though time is passing and no change is there. So I really just want to kind of like highlight that to the people around us. And you guys did so much better than me.
That's good. No, yeah, it's good.
No, because I think that, see, when you actually see Becca in practice, what she said there about her passion for the people of Lanarkshire, what Becca said about how inspired she is to genuinely make changes, you can't fake that.
No.
And when
No,
you see Becca with the members, she has a way of engaging them and really pulling them in, and it's because of the genuineness and her passion for Lanarkshire Links and what it is that we're doing, that she's able to capture that engagement so well. But it is because of her genuineness. Would you agree, Liz?
Yeah. Last year we managed to get a small pot of money from the Scottish Mental Health Arts Festival, and Becca took the work forward with some of the members who were into creativity, and we produced a booklet that published their poems, pieces of their art, and at our last members meeting, 4 of the members stood up and read their poetry out to the whole of the membership, and I think we had around 70 or 80 people at that meeting.
Excellent.
They were empowered to do this, and they were just glowing, and
They were.
it was, that's all part of recovery.
Absolutely.
That is promoting people's recovery. We were so proud of them.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think they were really proud of themselves. And they've got their booklet. We printed it in-house, so we've distributed that quite far and wide, and they've been able to have copies for their relatives and friends. And so on the success of that, we've applied for more funding this year.
Yes.
And we hope to do a similar project for the festival for 2025.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else Lanarkshire Links does in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.